Hello, everyone. It's Heather. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to Together with Heather. I have an amazing lineup tonight. We are going to be celebrating Black History Month. I have a co-host with me. I have some awesome guests, but I'm just so excited that you're here. I know normally we do an education corner. I guess I'm just going to do a quick update. Now is a good time to start looking at scholarships, and you can always apply for school. Make sure that you reach out. There's counselors at every school that are there. Their main job is to help you walk through the process. No question is ever a silly question or a dumb question. Everybody's here just to help you in your transition to higher ed. So with that, we are going to move on to our conversation. I think it's really important that we celebrate and honor all pieces of history, but also I know that this is not my history. So I have brought a co-host with me. He is a friend. He is my seatmate. Let's bring on Cedric Frazier. Welcome. Aren't you so excited you're my co-host?
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you said, my name's Cedric Frazier. We've become friends because we serve in the state legislature together. So happy to be a part of that with you. Both of us are in our first year. I represent an area in the northwest suburbs, which covers the city of New Hope, Crystal, and the eastern part of Plymouth. My background, I'm a labor attorney when I'm not in the legislature, and in education. So we will talk about some education. There is some education up in here. But I'm happy to be here, Heather, to co-host and have this conversation around celebrating Black History Month.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're here. Glad I could talk you into it. Next, I want to bring up somebody who I just love so much, and I think it's important that we have youth at the table every time we have conversations. So I want to bring my awesome son, DJ. Hi, DJ.
Hello.
Oh man, your voice just keeps getting deeper and deeper. How are you?
I am good.
Okay, tell us a little bit about you.
My name is DJ. I go to Morehead High School. I'm a freshman. I like sports. I'm in basketball right now, and I like doing this stuff with my mom.
Oh, he just did a really cool conversation with some of his teachers. He recorded it with a prior teacher that he had, just talking about the importance of having representation in our curriculum. So he's doing awesome things in our community. I'm so proud of him. And so next, I want to bring on a friend, a community member. I feel like me and Rachel end up in a lot of the same spaces, working towards equity in a lot of the areas. Rachel has really broken some glass ceilings. You know, we talk about the importance of this. Rachel was the very first Black woman to serve or to win Miss North Dakota. She also is our first Black school board member, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but she's just so impressive in the work that she does. She cares so much about our next generation. So welcome, Rachel. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here with you tonight. And you kind of like wrapped it up for me already. I am Rachel Stone. I am a mom of 3 sons. They're almost empty nester. A lot of my work is in the community, as I believe in bridging gaps and being part of the solution. And so that is in a nutshell what I love. I'm super excited here to talk about Black History Month and what that means. Is near and dear to me. So thank you.
I'm so glad you could be here. Me and Rachel actually just had a conversation, I don't know, a couple weeks ago about like, we need to be intentional friends. Like, I feel like when you grow up and you end up in all these spaces, like you have to be really intentional about just connecting and making sure that we grow on like a human level and a friendship level. So I'm really excited that you're here. Our next guest is somebody that the very first time I met Erin, we sat on an MLK panel at Concordia a year ago, and I can tell you that she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She planted seeds of inspiration, but also she's a role model. She's somebody that I really look up to. She has challenging conversations in the spaces that really matter, and I love that we're working towards a friendship as well. So Erin May Quaid, I'm so excited that you're here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you too. I'm Erin May Quaid. I use she, her pronouns. I am an advocate, an organizer. I'm a former state representative, and I do my work largely at the intersections of race, gender. I'm a queer woman that lives in the suburbs. I really am excited to have conversations tonight about Black history because that's our history. So let's get going.
Yeah, awesome. So last but not least, the man of many titles, if we want to bring JJ on. So JJ is actually, he's a friend of mine. I feel like every time we talk on the phone, we're like, okay, which hat are we wearing right now, right? And so he's my former mayor, but also he was a director of equity and inclusion at M-State. And so we have a lot of these crossover conversations. He's doing amazing things. Again, I love his leadership. He's really challenged me as an individual, but he's also challenged our community to grow. Leadership, I think, in the last year as a Black mayor probably had its toll, but he led with compassion and care, but also really used it as a lens for education. So JJ, I'm so glad you're here. If you want to do a quick little intro.
Sure, and Heather, thank you for inviting me here this evening, and welcome to everybody, and hello. My name is Jonathan Judd. I use he, him pronouns. I am the former mayor here in the beautiful city of Moorhead. And actually tomorrow will be my last day as the Director of Equity and Inclusion at M-State here in Moorhead. I am a husband, father of 3 extremely active children, very blessed to be a father, but also to live in a community that I feel is very supportive of our family. So really pumped to talk about Black History Month. And so thank you again for the invite.
Yay. I told you all this was a phenomenal panel. You thought I was playing. I'm not playing. So I'm going to ask the first question, and then I'm going to hand it over to my co-host because, like I said at the beginning, as an Indigenous woman, I know that my culture is so important, and I really want to give you all the space to celebrate and honor who all of you are. And so my first question is going to be, when you think about celebrating Black History Month, what does that mean to you? Let's start with Cedric.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah.
What I think about is, first of all, I'd say Black History Month is not just a month. I mean, it's intertwined with the history of this nation. So it's every day, but it does provide the opportunity based on our history for a time to highlight all of the things, all of the contributions that folks from the diaspora and the Black community have provided to this country and what they will continue to provide. And then also an opportunity to look forward to what we still need to continue to work on. So I see it as a look back, but a recognition that Black history is every day, but we also is a time for us to celebrate the achievements that we've had and what we contributed to this country.
All right, let's head over to Rachel.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Black History Month is so special. As for me, it's a reservation, right? It's reserved specifically to celebrate our culture, our history, to honor Black and Brown leaders coming from many different backgrounds. And so a lot of times, when you hear the word leaders, you tend to automatically think, the person has to be doing something really, really big. They have to be rich. They have to be famous. They have to do something grand. But in reality, to me, a leader is just anyone with character, anyone who's willing to step up with confidence. They're visionary. They're courageous. They want to be part of solving a problem, and they're examples for us to follow. And there's so many Black leaders, those who have gone before us, those that, shoulders that we're standing on, someone that we follow, and you don't have to be a brown person to follow someone with character and integrity, and so many times people of color, they're overlooked. They're not recognized for their leadership and their accomplishments. And so this month is a time to do just that, to celebrate and to gain a greater understanding of our history and our culture. That's what Black History Month means to me.
That was great. DJ, what do you got? Oh,
Oh,
that's what he got, huh?
Is he kicking it back to me?
He'll come back. Let's go to Aaron.
I want to just like yes to everything that was said, but I think Black History Month for me is a time to like double down on Black futures. I think so often we like sanitize and whitewash in the most like literal terms Black leaders and Black accomplishments to the point where it's like, don't worry, it's fine, liberation's been achieved, like look at MLK. And for me, Black History Month is like, you know, I was raised in the suburbs. I think I was the first Black woman to be elected to the state legislature, like outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul. My father was like just hammering home all the time, like, you know, learn about Black leaders, learn about Black history. And so I feel like Black History Month is a time where I can like pull out that knowledge and be like, oh, that thing I know, or oh, that story I know. But really it's a time when we can look back at what have we been fighting for so long, and how does that translate to now? And I think a lot about, you know, the March on Washington, like the slogan was jobs and freedom. And they were really protesting against police violence and lack of economic opportunity. And it's like, wow, are we still doing that? Yes, we are, right? So we can look to Black history to know that we have not achieved what we think we have, right? What the larger country thinks we have, and really double down on what Black futures can look like. So that's really what it means for me.
Yes, yes, and more yes, right? I feel like it's just getting better. Okay, DJ, let's try it again. You're muted. Okay. We'll let you work on that. JJ, you want to go?
yeah, sure. You know, pretty much what everyone has said really encompasses what Black History Month means to me. I think for me, it's been really a time to sit back and reflect again to what, you know, Aaron had, you know, talked about. I mean, learning from the history to create a better future. And it really goes beyond just those leaders to what Rachel was saying that we recognize that are really visible. I also think it's some time to, you know, talk about those folks that really we don't really have an opportunity to really, you know, consider and really pay homage and tribute to. I think, you know, I mean, when we talk about the Black authors that we probably rarely have read in high school and maybe not even in college, you know, about how Black intellectualism and folks that really probably haven't had the opportunity to get the credit for moving our society forward, but we know we're really at the core of a lot of the leaders that were visible. So I think it's really a time really that we should be focusing on that. But to Cedric's point, I mean, it is something that we should be looking at every day. But I think we get caught up in our daily lives that we don't give that pause to really look back and reflect about the triumphs. But I would say, you know, though it is a month on a calendar, it's something where it does give that pause that we need to really stop and take some time to really reflect on those folks that really have made a big difference that might not get the recognition that they deserve.
That's great. I am going to pass the hosting mic over to Cedric now, and I am just going to listen and take it all in. So go ahead, Cedric.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for passing me the mic. So, you know, I feel like what I just heard was amazing, and I'm so happy to be in this discussion with all the great people that are here tonight. And what most of you have said, right? We talked about looking at the history, but also looking forward. And then, Aaron, what you just mentioned was that like we're still fighting some of the same things that we fought back in 1965, right? When we had the March on Washington. So to that point, here's what I want to say. And here's a question I want to throw out to everyone, and each of you can have a chance to answer. I believe each one of us on this panel has been the first in the roles that we played, right? So talk to the audience about, you've been the first in that role. Identify what that role was. Each one you can talk about what that role was when you've been the first. But talk about what it has meant in your life, and also what it has meant to your family and to your community to be the first, and just give your perspective on that. and we'll start with Aaron.
Oh wow. Okay. So
I know that's a big one.
Yeah, and sometimes I have to do, because sometimes someone will tell you you're the first, and you're like, can I Google that to make sure? Because I'm not sure that we're like looking at history. So I was the first Black woman to be elected from outside of Minneapolis or St. Paul. I was the first LGBTQ candidate to be endorsed on a statewide ticket. I was the I think I was the third Black woman ever to be elected. Well, me and Ilhan tied for third, so it was like, you know, Neva, Rima, then me and Ilhan, to be elected to the legislature. And I think I might have been the first out LGBTQ person to be elected from outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul, but I might be wrong about that. So I really deeply apologize if I'm wrong. But being the first, right, it means you have 39,500 constituents that you represent, only like half of whom voted for you, right? And then you also are like this, you like hold the mantle for this entire community. So you have to know everything that's in your own like geographical community, everything that sits at the intersection. So for me, being a millennial who's queer, Black, and from the suburbs, like I have to know all those things, and I'm a woman. And so I feel like I have to be like 4 times as good all the time to be taken half as seriously and get like 25% as much done. And I don't know if that's true, but it's what it feels like. I always have to be on. I always have to be perfect. But at the same time, like when I would talk, I would go every Friday into a classroom because we wouldn't have session on Friday. So I would go into schools when schools were still in, and I would do like any school in my district. And I would just say, I'm Erin May Quaid. I'm your state representative. I live with my wife here in Apple Valley with our 2 rescue dogs. And inevitably there'd always be a kid that'd be like, do you mean husband? I'm like, I don't mean husband. I mean wife. And just the casual way I would say it. And I would have these gaggle of kids that would be like, I'm a lesbian, and they've never seen a leader that looks like them. Or I would have just like this gaggle of Black and brown kids that would be like, you're in politics and tell me more. That picture of Obama where that little boy was touching his hair. I had a girl with curls just be like, can I touch your hair? I was like, absolutely, sweetie, like touch my hair. And so that what you're doing isn't just like being representative of, that it means so much to people who are like you, who look like you, who love like you do, who live where you live, that it like you carry that weight with you all the time in a good way. You know that you're like groundbreaking, but that the like path that you're breaking will be followed behind you with other people. So it's a burden, but it's the burden of leadership in a good way. And I'm just honored to have had it and to have it still to this day.
Powerful. Thank you, Aaron. Rachel.
Yeah. It resonates what Aaron's saying. So much of what she said. It's a great responsibility. I see it as a great responsibility to be the first African-American Mrs. North Dakota, and then also first woman of color to serve on the Moorhead School Board. It shocked me. I must say, it shocked me. I didn't see it coming. I really didn't. I just knew that. For me, I believe this is my purpose. I worked in the Fargo public school system. I worked in Moorhead public school system. I saw the gaps. I saw the needs. I would see the kids, and they would pull on me, like Aaron was saying, they were pulling on me, Miss Rachel. And I started off really, in a lunch supervisor. And so just being in that position made a huge impact in the school system. Our kids were hungry to see a staff of color. They hadn't seen that before, and they would pull on me, and I saw those gaps and needs, and I knew that I had to do more. Representation means everything. They had not seen that before. But it's hard because a lot of times it's like, tell me how you did and how are you doing it? And a lot of times I say, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't have anyone to go to say, how do you, do that? How do you run this campaign? How do you step up in this position out of your comfort zone and do something that's never been done? And when you're the first, you just learn as you go. You make these mistakes and you recover and you keep going, right? But that representation, it means everything because for me, I run a nonprofit organization. So everything that I do, a lot of it's surrounded with being an example and paving the way for our children, for our littles. They need to see it, and a lot of them, they're not seeing it. They don't have those role models to look up to. But I believe that we are all example. And as we use that, being authentic, using and embracing our experiences and stepping out of our comfort zones, to say you can, there's hope for you no matter where you come from. Our kids are seeing us doing it, and then they too will step up, and they believe that they can do it. We give them hope and inspiration to do it themselves. So it's a place where I've been. It's amazing. I'm very honored. It's an honor to sit, in this place where I am right now.
Yes. Thank you, Rachel. Jonathan, I'm going to get to you, but I want to pull DJ in real quick. So DJ, well, and I don't want you to go quick. Take your time. But DJ, your mom has been elected, and she is a first. I want you to talk to me about what that feels like to see your mom in that position, and how it is impacting your life, and how you just help me tell us how you feel about that.
I think it's crazy because, like, just growing up around her, like, it's just like she can just flip the switch whenever she wants and just become like a boss, and like it's crazy. And yeah, she motivates me to do better every day, and yeah.
Thank you, DJ. In fact, I think I've texted that to her in committee meetings when she's just flipped that switch to become the boss. Absolutely right. So, Jonathan, go ahead and share your story, brother.
Yeah, pretty much. I think the folks are spot on. I mean, I would say, I guess we had to check to Aaron's point, the history books just to make sure that I was the first African American mayor in Morehead history. You never know.
Right.
And so, with that, and then, recently I was just appointed to be the first African American judge in Otter Tail County in Greater Minnesota. And so, I think, again, Aaron's spot on, where you do feel that you are carrying this responsibility, because even though we may be the first, we don't want to be the last.
Right.
And so I think that that's a great debt of we own it, right? Because we all have been and currently are still leaders in our own right. But I think, for folks that really don't maybe understand the significance and why this is important, because we have to walk a fine line to make sure that we're doing a good job for everybody. And also the fact that maybe perhaps that spotlight is on us, maybe a little bit more than another person. But again, I think it's one that we all welcome. I know that I welcome it, but I also know that part of the legacy that I want to leave in building community in any capacity is to make sure that as I'm moving up, I'm taking, folks with me, and also making sure that they also leave a legacy of leadership as well. So again, I think it's a great responsibility. It does come with some element of stress, and I think we all can own that. But it is one of those things where we were put here for a reason.
Yeah.
And people have entrusted us to lead. And so I think that, if we couldn't do it, we wouldn't be here. So kudos for everybody stepping up. And for those that are watching and listening, I'm hoping that, one day in the future, you will also be honored and be chosen to lead in your own capacity as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I just concur with everything that everyone said. I mean, I was the first Black city council member, and I'm the first Black person that was elected in this seat. But the person that was in the seat was in the seat for 48 years. Aaron knows him. But he and Zerby, so he served for a long time, and he did some great things for this district. But I am the first, and there is absolutely this weight, this burden that you carry with you when you are the first. And like Jonathan said, you don't want to be the last. And for me, everything that I do every day, I do it. And whenever I show up, I want to make sure I'm putting my best foot forward, that I'm representing, so that when the next person that comes, so there's no doubt that there's going to be more of me and more folks that look like me. They're going to have this opportunity. And I often, when I talk to young folks, I say to them, look, I'm just here to kick the door open, knock it off the hinges. And then for you, I want you to run in and I want you to do all the things that you want to do, because you absolutely can do it. I'm just the first. I'm just trying to pave the way, and you come in and do what you need to do. So thanks everybody for sharing that. And just kind of follow that theme now. All of us seem, we seem driven, right? Talk to us about the person in your life. And it could also be a historical figure, right? Or it could be your mom or your dad or your uncle. Who inspired you? Who inspired you and motivated you to do what you're doing today? Rachel.
Who inspires me? I love this. I love this. My parents. I'm a PK, right? And so PK stands for pastor's kids. So I grew up in the church. Yeah, that was my beginning. And so I did everything. The focus of being in the ministry in the church, they call the church, sometimes it's like a healing, a place of healing, because people that are hurting, people that are in need, they go to church. They're looking for answers. They're looking for support. And when you're a PK, you do everything. You're singing in the choir, you're working Sunday school, when you get of age, you're working maintenance, you're cleaning, I was over the kitchen ministry, wherever I saw that there was a need or that I can help, that's what I did. Even when I was forced to do it when I was a kid, and then when I didn't have a choice to do it when I was a kid, but that was my foundation. I watched my parents serve. I watched my parents give, and I watched lives being changed. I watched them give selflessly, to help people that were in need, and that has become part of me. That I was born for a purpose. And it was born to inspire and to help and to give others hope. And so they have been my greatest inspiration. I've watched them over the years, and to this day, that's actually what brought me from Chicago all the way here 18 years ago. Working in the ministry, I knew that they would need my support, and so I'm moving my 3 sons down. And they have set such a wonderful and an amazing example for who I am. So a lot of people say, they ask me, how did you get that mentality? How did you do what you did? Who is it that inspired you to do that? And I say, my mom and my dad. I watched them give. I watched them change lives. I watched them inspire. And I'm their mini me. They created me. Along with my children. My children raised 3 sons. They have, been my everything. They've been my heart. And so that's my inspiration, along with other leaders and mentors.
Thank you for sharing it. And I got to say, it's probably every parent's hope that their kids are going to say exactly what you just said about them, that they inspired them, and that you're the reason, that they are the reason that you're doing what you do. So thank you for sharing that. DJ, I probably got a pretty good idea who inspires you, but you just want to talk a little bit about who inspires you.
Yeah, well, my mom inspires me the most. Just my family in general. My unchi inspires me. My little brother. Just everybody. I think about, I guess they're like my reason why. Like, I want to focus in school and do good things in the community. So yeah.
Thank you, DJ. Aaron.
So when you asked this question, I had this answer like pop into my head, and it was like, I don't think you can say that. And Rachel, like when you first asked the question, you went to Rachel, she was like, I'm a pastor's kid. I was like, well, then I think this is a sign that I have to say what came into my head. So Jesus, and it's Lent, right? Like it's the start of Lent, so it's very appropriate. But I was not raised super religious. We are like ELCA Lutherans. We go to church. We're super cash and cool. And my parents are incredible people. My dad's Black, my mom's white. So I always say that they were on the forefront of doing like marriage in a really cool way before my wife and I got married. But I remember like getting really into my faith when I was like 12 and just being so inspired and realizing when I was about 16 or 17 that was the impetus for my political activism, was just like this brown socialist that was like, feed people, hang out with poor people, like, let's do the right thing. Don't be assholes, if I can just say like what it is, right? Like that's what it is. And I just remember being like, oh, that's why I do this, right? That is what gives me kind of that relentless energy behind pursuit of justice, because there are, and people inspire me so many times, so many different ways, right? Like I'll be listening to a GSA student group talk and one student will say one thing. And I'm like, I have to hold on to that because that's inspirational. Like my great aunt gave me her last $20 when I was running for state house the first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't let her down. Right. And so it's just like humanity inspires me and the capacity for us to be good, but it really is rooted in my faith. And I wasn't going to say it, but Rachel, being a PK and you said it, I knew I had to be honest and say that.
Thank you, Aaron. Jonathan.
Granddad and my mom. Yeah, hands down. Pretty much the work ethic. I would definitely say that both of them really pushed me beyond well beyond my comfort zone. Just much like Rachel. I mean, I grew up in the Congregational Baptist faith in North Carolina, so we were in church all the time, and pretty much my grandfather just gave selflessly, just in the community, and really where my I guess commitment to working with community, with youth, really came from him, because he was always actively involved in something, whether it was with the elderly, even with youth. And so I think a lot of that really came from him. The importance of education, I think, came from him too, because he only finished 6th grade, and my grandmother finished the 8th grade. So being the first to graduate from college, first gen student, that was a big deal to my family. And mom, just again, when I was debating going to law school, because I didn't think I wanted to go to law school, she pretty much told me, you're going to go to law school. We're going to pay the application fees. You're going to go. That's just the way it is. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to law school. So just that's how much my mother was and still is a very big influence in my life. But again, same thing. I mean, she's active now in Atlanta, where she lives, working with youth, actively involved in the church, doing community, delivering meals to folks that might not, have the ability to have a good meal. Really, my public service journey really started much earlier than I thought, because I saw people in my family, talking the talk and walking the walk. So I would say there's many more, but those two really stick out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, in that vein, it would be my mother and my grandfather. I mean, there's many inspirations in my family. My father, hardworking, but my grandfather was one who, and I grew up in a Baptist family too. And you talk about the long days, how much time you spend in church. I always tell a joke. I'd say you'd have the preacher that's going to go through that sermon for the 4th time, and it's still the same service. That's how long you spend, how much time you spend in church, right?
It's like church, right? Like that.
Right. and so, I always tell people what I appreciate about other denominations is that it's kind of like a time schedule, right? It's about an hour and a half, and you're out of there. And I said, I can appreciate that. As a kid, it was not that way at all. You went thinking like, here's my day. Here's where I'm going to be for the day. But my grandfather was inspirational in terms of the service piece, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I mean, he was involved in church and with the community, but he was a Freemason, and a lot of the stuff he did in the community was through that Freemasonry work. I always talk about the fact that he would, with his Freemason group, they would host this back to school barbecue every year, and I had the opportunity to pass out backpacks with school supplies in them, and I've never forgotten that, and I always think about that when I think about why I'm doing this work, and it's always to give back, because if you have the opportunity, he who much is given, much is expected, right? So you're always trying to give back. So thank you for sharing that. So moving on, we're in this moment. We're talking about Black history, and I think we've alluded to it kind of in the beginning about looking forward to the future and what that means, and how are we going to continue to move forward. What do you all think that is the biggest challenge, right? And this is probably a huge question, but just for what you all personally think, what is the biggest challenge for the Black community to continue to move forward today? What do you think the biggest challenge is? And I know, that's a tough question to ask, but just pick one thing and talk about maybe something that you're trying to work on, or that you're personally working on to the work you do. But what is one of the biggest challenges you think, some of the biggest challenges that are facing the Black community in terms of how we can continue to move forward? Rachel.
One of the biggest challenges in our community, as I look at things that I'm working on, and so I have my nonprofit organization, P's and Q's Etiquette, and we work with, it's a youth nonprofit. We work with young people with an emphasis on disadvantaged youth, right? Students of color, to develop them into effective leaders. And one of the projects that we're working on is our social media channel. And I think sometimes one of the hardest things to do is just have the conversations, right? Have the conversations, the tough conversations, the conversations that people are afraid to have. And I think I can't quote it for verbatim what Martin Luther King said about, having the conversations. You don't talk, we don't understand each other because we don't talk, and then while we're talking, so we're afraid, there's fear in there. And so I believe that the opportunities like we have right now, like what we're doing, talking about, bringing awareness and really listening, listening not to respond, listening not to defend, but listening to really, really hear and understand what are the issues, where can I help, or just getting a full understanding. And I know it's hard when you haven't been through or haven't experienced certain things that other people have. But when you take the moment to really, when you come with a clear motive, your motive is to really hear, because I want to understand, and I want to be part of the change. I believe that we'll be able to move further. That'll be able to bring healing when we start to have those tough conversations and really understand each other. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. Jonathan.
Man, Such, you asking some pretty deep questions, which is good. It's just wow. I really would say, just from talking to my family, because I've got family, I grew up in North Carolina, so a lot of my family is on the East Coast, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, up to New York State. The conversations that I've been hearing, being a part of, it really is just, there's a level of apathy and maybe I don't want to call it hopelessness, but I think there's this need to remain positive in light of all the things that are going on, in our country and in society. I think, there's a point where I think there's when you see so much that is negative, that there's a tendency to probably feel like what you're doing in the road and the path you're on is leading you to a point where nothing positive is going to come out of it. And honestly, I think us being here, us being visible, and the leadership that we see is providing that element of hope that we all came from situations without, and I don't even have to go in depth. I just feel just from where folks are talking, we all have had to arise out of some element of struggle, but the struggle was worth it, you know. And that's why I think it's important for us when we're making those connections with the community, with our youth, you know, with folks that might be just, you know, I'm not sure how I feel. Is this really worth moving forward, going, enduring the struggle? And really telling the story about, yes, you know, we are resilient, we made it through, so can you, you know. And it's not going to be easy, it is going to be hard, but
Right.
at the end of the day, we are, and you are going to make it. I think that's a really big challenge, because I think you can easily get caught up in a lot of what's negative, but there is some light at the end, and it's worth pursuing.
Absolutely. Aaron.
So I want to ask a clarifying question, Cedric. Is it
Yes.
what are the challenges moving forward, like for Black folks in community, or like for the Black community? Because those are two different responses.
That's a good question. I did say for the Black community. So
Okay. I was like reading the question. I was like, I don't know. So I think that the increasing normalization of white supremacy is always going to be our biggest hurdle. And I say the increasing normalization because white supremacy is obviously the structure that we live in our country, in our society. Like interrupting that is hard. Doing nothing is the norm. And we have seen the like overt white nationalist terrorism. We have seen the violence. We have seen the increasing, and people are just like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Watching folks during and after the election, like explicitly call out Black communities and then target them for like increasing voting measures, right? Like we did the Civil Rights Act, we did the Voting Rights Act, right back there. We still live in a very segregated society. Yes. There were communities that preferred to drain their pools rather than have Black folks swim in them. And like, we're not much for, like, we've had a functioning democracy for 55 years. That's it. And so watching us move back towards like that overt white supremacy, and have it be so normalized that we're like, it's not that bad, or like pretending we don't hear it when we hear it and when it's said, that is a huge, like, that's the barrier, right? Like, we can't move forward if we're normalizing the oppression. And we already lived with the oppression, but I thought we were all kind of like taking steps to do something about it. Now we're just like debating whether we should stop it or not. But I also think that part of, and this goes back to what I think JJ, like we've been on a panel before, but I was always calling you Mayor Judd. I'm just going to call you JJ now. Going back to what you were saying is, you know, the last act of oppression is not death, it's despair. And despair is a liar, but it will convince you that no matter what you do and no matter how hard you try, nothing will change. And if we and that's false, but if we buy into despair, right, then more folks stop the fight. And I think a lot about how long slavery existed in America. And there were folks who were here at the beginning and there were folks who were here at the end, but there were many more folks that were here in the middle that were born enslaved and died enslaved. And they fought knowing that they would never see freedom on either end, right? They weren't born free and they were going to certainly die not free. And so I don't know where we are in that history. I don't know if what we're doing now puts us at the middle or at the end, but it's still worth the fight because we wouldn't be where we are if our ancestors didn't continue the fight. And so I think our two challenges, right, are the normalization of white supremacy and white nationalist terrorism and giving into despair.
Thank you for sharing that, everybody for sharing that. Aaron, to that point, I hope we are closer to the middle than to where we were before that, because I think about what you said. For our ancestors, we are their wildest dreams, right? For many of them, they were born enslaved, they died enslaved. But they dreamed that their ancestors would not be that their ancestors would be more that. Yeah.
I don't think this was their wildest dream. I really don't. I think that they were hoping that it would be like this 200 years ago. I think that this was not their wildest dream, but I think that we can achieve it. And I can never tell if we're closer to that or farther away, but I'm just going to work like we're close.
I can go with that. I would imagine they would wanted to see a world where we're not still fighting these issues. So I can absolutely agree with that. The wildest dream would have been that we were free from bondage in every way imaginable, right? And we absolutely are not there yet, right? We are talking about, we had higher voter turnout, and now we're looking at about 100 laws to suppress to suppress voters for the next election, right? So that tells you we're not there yet. My hope is that, though, in this moment, if someone asked me, someone once asked me, said, "Hey, why did you run for office when the house is on fire? Why would you run into something that's on fire?" And I said, this is the greatest time to be engaged in policy making to help push things forward. Because the moment that we decide that we can't push things forward anymore, then we are in despair and there is no hope, right? And I remember when I was campaigning, I would talk to some folks and they'd say, "Man, look, I'm not going to vote because my vote doesn't matter." And when you get people to that point, that's a supremacy working right there, right? When you get to that point, you've given up and the system and everything will remain the same. It will be status quo. They won't have to suppress any votes because you'll do it yourself, right? And so for me, it's continuing to have that hope to know that we have to keep fighting. We have to keep fighting. And like you said, Aaron, I'm fighting with the hope that we're closer to getting to what our ancestors' wildest dream really was: no bondage whatsoever. And it's truly multiracial society where we're all going to be kind of equal and equitable and kind of live out our dreams as we see fit. DJ, I don't want to leave you out, brother. You want to share something, young man? You're muted. It's good to know that young people get crossed up sometimes too. Well, DJ, we'll come back to you.
There you go.
Is he unmuted now? All right.
He left the party.
He left the party. He's like, "I'm out of here, old people." All right. All right, but hey, so we're getting close to time, and I don't know how we bump up against this. We've got about 10 minutes left, but I want to make sure that I give everybody just a chance to have some closing remarks. You can focus on the importance of continue to celebrate Black history, and also kind of talk about how you're celebrating Black history. What are you doing in this moment? What are you doing out in the community? What are you doing with your family? Just talk about that, and then you can use that as your way to kind of close out, and then we'll wrap up. DJ, we'll get back to you. Talk about how you're celebrating Black history.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm celebrating Black history. Like, to me, it's not just like a month. I feel like in school, we don't talk about Black history enough, and nothing really changes in February. It's like, it hasn't been referenced, but I do see like more on social media, like people promoting it and everything. But I have definitely learned like a lot more about Black History Month this year, because it's just a completely different year for me personally, like just with like racial injustice and everything going on this year. So yeah.
Thank you, DJ. Rachel.
So for me, this is like fuel. This month is like fuel, right? I get to hear everything about our leaders of color and all their accomplishments, history, learning about, the obstacles that we've overcome. And so it's just encouraging. You think about, there's so many stories, right? There's so many backgrounds that people have come from, the oppression, the injustice. I mean, you slavery, just think about all the obstacles they've overcome, and what they were able to accomplish. So if it's just having those conversations with my children, if it's watching all the movies, there's so many movies out there where we can watch history, promoting it on social media. if it's, you know, talking about it with my girls with P's and Q's, you know, what are your goals? You know, where do you see yourself, you know, in the future? Let's talk about it, because we are training up future leaders. That's what we are doing. And planting those seeds is so important at a young age. So what do you want to accomplish? How can you be the role model and the leader, and encouraging them to know that they are role models right now? They don't have to be, you know, older adults like us, you know, to accomplish great things. It's the little things that matters, and them stepping up, letting their voices being heard, you know, being the one that has the integrity and character, you know, to speak up when needed is very, very important. So this month is, like I said, it's my fuel. It's like, let's go. I got this. You know, let's make some big things happen. So, yeah.
You're definitely making me feel that energy. I appreciate that. Aaron, go ahead.
I feel like Rachel just called us all old, and we should just pause on that. I'm an aspiring senior citizen. I'm not old. No, so Black History Month, I feel like for me, it's always the opportunity to like level up into my unapologetic Blackness. And it's a constant work in progress, right? Because the way Black people are, right? We exist, the way we walk, where we go, what we do, that is policed literally and figuratively constantly. And so I use Black History Month to like level up into and just like root down and be like, nope, this is the level and I'm never going down from there. I'm going to get blacker every year. Watch out. It's been 34 years. Watch out. But I do, you know, the work that I do, so I work at a nonprofit that works on gender equity, and I'm constantly reminded of the ways in which we have allowed our existence to be called into question and or politicized, right? So I do reproductive rights and justice work. I do work for trans and LGBT people. And this is actually really poignant and important to talk about with an Indigenous audience, because Heather, you generally do this, but I work a lot on trans issues in particular, and the gender binary is deeply rooted in white supremacy. There's a reason why that Ward Churchill terrible slogan, "Kill the Indian, save the man," had man on it. It wasn't like man like humankind. It was like actually to persecute two-spirit individuals, right? Men who are walking around in skirts, as he put it. And so I am reminded all the time that, one, there is solidarity in the work we do together as BIPOC folks, right? There is solidarity in that. There is a reason why we are pitted against one another. There's a reason why anti-Semitism is often used as the scapegoat for why things are going wrong. I use Black History Month to make sure that we are leaning into all of the ways we liberate ourselves. And liberation is tied together. You can't do liberation without LGBTQ liberation, without Black liberation, without, you know, anti-colonialism. You can't do it without gender liberation. Like, it is impossible. There's not one way for one of us to get free and somebody else to be oppressed. Like, it's all tied together. And so Black History Month is really to identify the root of that oppression, lean into that Blackness, like unapologetically Black, and then work for that liberation. It means working for liberation for all humans, all bodies, all people. And I'm just really excited to be in this space, this virtual space with all of you to talk about that, because it does, like Rachel said, it's like fuel. I'm like, it's 8:30 and I'm ready to go. Like, let's do it.
Same here. Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I think February 2021 for me, being Black History Month, I'm going to probably take a step back and be a little selfish. I haven't had 2 weeks off. It would have to be years, I think. So honestly, I'm going to use this time to try to go back home, see my family in North Carolina, thank the teachers who have had me back in junior high school, the coaches, really just to really reconnect with folks that at some element in my life, again, those folks that I talked about earlier that don't get the recognition that they probably deserve, and thank them personally if they're still around. I just know that being that I've worn so many hats in the community, I'm going to use this time to really just check back in with myself and moving forward with my new role, probably look and see how I could be good at what my new role is going to be. I'm right now, I think, beside my bed, I'm reading W.E.B. Du Bois. I'm really just trying to reconnect with a lot of the books and movies. I watched Marshall the other night.
Mm.
You know, I'm really trying to get back in tune with myself and really just try to learn to be better than really that I've ever been. And maybe just so it's going to be kind of a selfish time for me, which will be good, but also being able to do the work in the future. So it's more of a re-energizing time, kind of like where Rachel's at, ready to go. I think I just need that time to kind of check back in with my history, and with those that are a part of that history that got me here today.
Very good. Yeah, I think in a similar vein, I mean, for me, it's like I'm doubling down. I'm wearing McKente cloths. I'm not letting anything pass that I feel like is disrespecting what blackness is and what blackness means, right? And that's really that's this moment. And I try to live that way every day because Black History is every day. But in February, absolutely, like Rachel said, the energy is there, and I'm just trying to be immersed in it. I'm trying to be in spaces like this, usually physical when we're not in a pandemic, and I'm just trying to immerse myself in these spaces with Black folks, and books and movies and music, and just wrap myself in it and just remind myself, Black is beautiful, right? Black is beautiful, and it's magical, and it's so much energy, and it's done so much to not only impact this country but to impact this world. And kind of what Aaron said, but we've all had these alliances for those that have been oppressed. And we've all fought together to kind of get to this point. And that's also something that I'm reminded of, is that it's going to take these coalitions as we move forward, because united, we can do a whole bunch of things, but divided, the supremacy gets to continue to reign. And that's what we don't want to happen. So I'm going to say, hey, thank you so much, Heather, for inviting me to co-host. Thank you everybody on this panel, because you are all amazing. And I'm just happy to share this virtual space as well. Don't even know if I'm deserving of it, but I'm happy to be here. But thank you all. I've appreciated the time. And Heather, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Wow. It was so great. I'm going to say, when I told you all I had a lineup that was going to be amazing, you did not disappoint. I really appreciate all of you. We are going to have a part 2 next week. I have a community member who really has been wanting to talk on this. And part of this platform is Together with Heather. This is not just about me. This is about sharing this platform to share our truth and our story everywhere. And so we're going to have a community takeover on Together with Heather next week. But we're going to sign off. But first, I want to have a moment with my son. So I'm going to put all of you in the background. Don't you all go anywhere. And if we can just have DJ on the screen for a minute, please. DJ.
Hello. Can you hear me? Is it working?
Yeah, it's good. So first, you are awesome. I appreciate you having the courage to step into these spaces and these conversations. And I just need you to know how proud I am of you. I know that as a freshman at 14, you probably have so many other things you want to do, but being in this space and sharing in this conversation is just so important. How do you feel this conversation went today?
I thought it was good. I definitely learned some things. Got to hear different opinions from different perspectives, and more about my culture that I didn't know, and just something that I can, just things that I can work on to be better at.
Mm-hmm. I love that about you. I mean, there's a lot of things I love about you because I'm your mom and that's my job. But you always just find ways to grow and turn into a phenomenal human. But also, I'm really glad that I have friends like this that I can bring to be role models and inspiration to you. So as we close out today, usually I do the last word, but I want you to share a message of hope and just do a sign off. And let's turn it over to you.
What do you want me to say?
Just say it. A message of hope. What's a message that you would want to share with people to have a good week or to do something great in the world? Or how do you feel like you want to inspire other people in this moment?
Well, I'll use the message. I had church today, so I would say everybody try to create your own footprint and leave your mark on the world before you leave it, and wear your mask.
And wear your mask. See, you're a natural. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, all of our awesome guests and all of you out there, like DJ said, wear your mask, be safe, leave a footprint, and we'll see you all around at another time. Bye.